Hello, welcome to Custodial Crypto. Today I'm going to talk about 4 events to look out for in the 2026 bull run. I personally don't think that we've topped out this year in 2025. I do think we'll dip under 100k at some point, but I think we'll continue to go and set new highs in 2026. This is mainly due to macro reasons, which I'm not going to get into in this video, but let's get started with the first event that can catalyze this bull run. And the first thing to look out for is altcoin ETF approvals. So as you can see from this post, there have been 92 ETF filings with the SEC, 11 of which have already been approved. And the first final deadlines are coming up in October, and these are notably for the XRP ETFs. So Grayscale's final deadline is coming up on the 18th of November, with a bunch of other deadlines coming from the 19th to the 25th. This is obviously super bullish for the market because if institutional money flows into altcoins, this could really give them a pump. I do think that the XRP spot ETFs are already guaranteed because 2 futures ETFs have already been approved. So I don't see what the reason is for them to reject them. Like we saw with the ETH ETF, however, it doesn't mean the price will go up straight away. We actually have to wait for the funds to flow in. Institutions have a lot of strict rules and they can't necessarily just invest where they want straight away. And this takes us to the second reason or event, and that is the Ethereum Fusaka upgrade set on November 5th. This is a pretty significant change to Ethereum's blockchain because it's a hard fork, so computers that don't go through this upgrade will no longer be compatible with the new Ethereum blockchain. And this mainly works on the back end of Ethereum, so how it works in the background, and it's not really going to impact users' experience on the front end. The main thing I want you to take away from this is that it's going to make Ethereum a lot faster, process a lot more transactions, and make already the biggest smart contract blockchain a lot bigger. And so one of the ways it's going to do this is through peer data availability sampling. What this does is it reduces the data storage needed for computers validating transactions. Instead of downloading full blobs, they will only need to download part of these blobs, and in turn, it's going to increase the amount of blobs per block by 8x. And what is a blob? I hear you say, well, blobs are side data added to each Ethereum block. When layer 2s are validating transactions, they post it to the blob instead of posting it permanently to the final blocks added to the blockchain. And so this graph isn't the best example, but imagine this being the current Ethereum blockchain, and in the future, there's going to be 8 times the amounts of blobs per block, meaning that there'll be extra activity happening from all these layer 2s at the bottom. And since all the blobs data is temporary, it's cheaper to store, and the transactions happen a lot faster. So this will be very bullish for Ethereum layer 2s because they're going to be able to process a lot more transactions, and that means that they'll be able to compete with other layer 1 blockchains themselves. And another way the upgrade is going to boost the network is through vertical trees, enabling stateless clients. So usually each ETH node needs to update and store the entire blockchain when making new blocks. Obviously over time this becomes more resource heavy, and it means that only big players that can afford the type of hardware and have the energy, can afford that amount of energy as well, end up dominating the blockchain. And so what is the solution? Well, that is stateless clients that can verify transactions without needing to see the full state of the blockchain. They will validate transactions and submit cryptographic proofs to show that they did it correctly, and the rest of the validators will use that. So there will no longer be the same energy requirements, and this makes Ethereum a lot more decentralized because devices as small as mobile phones will be able to verify transactions on the ETH blockchain. And so to explain this visually, imagine this is the old version of the blockchain where the entire state of the blockchain is needed, multiple proofs are needed, and in the future, the validators will just go to the stateless client and they will submit one proof. So all of these diagrams have 16 data points, but you see how much more efficient it is with the new format. Now, technically, There could be security flaws because people will get to participate in the blockchain without having anything at stake. Stateless clients don't get paid. However, the amount of energy that stateless clients use is very limited. And so if people start sending false information to the blockchain, there'll be a lot of competition with other stateless clients and consensus will be made. And the validators are separate. The ones with the actual Ethereum stake, which can actually make the final blocks. If they see there's false data, they won't post the block to the final version of the blockchain. So this makes the blockchain a lot more decentralized, a lot faster, with little or almost no extra security risks. And let's move on to the next reason or event to look out for. And that's Jerome Powell leaving the Federal Reserve in May 2026. He may stay on the board after this, but he'll no longer be the chair. It looks like Trump will be able to get rate cuts before this happens in May 2026, but he'll be able to pursue certain policies more aggressively once he's removed Jerome as Fed chair. And one of these policies is the easing of bank leverage requirements, or in particular, the supplementary leverage ratio. And so why would he want to do this? Well, by increasing the supplementary leverage ratio, banks will be able to buy more government debt without needing extra capital. This means that they will get a lot more liquidity straight from the government, and they won't need to go into the real economy to give out loans, etc., to make money. So they would get money straight from the Federal Reserve. And why is this bullish for the markets? Because they might just look to invest straight into the markets to make money instead of doing their traditional job. And since the government have increased the debt ceiling by about 4 to 5 trillion, if the markets don't want to soak up all of this government debt, well, making banks, allowing banks to have more leverage will help basically soak up the demand. And the whole reason Bitcoin exists in the first place is that there's too much government debt and there's too much money printing in the system. And we've seen that certain banks are already investing in Bitcoin through BlackRock. So we'd hope that this continues. And this takes us to the fourth and final event to look out for. And this is that the Genius Stablecoin Act will come into law. So yes, the Genius Stablecoin Act has already been signed into law. However, it is not taken effect. The earliest it will take effect is November 2026. The Fed needs to publish final rules. And so why is this bullish? Well, it means that banks will be more likely to offer their own stablecoins, and there'll be a lot more confidence in the market now that stablecoins are fully government regulated. This means that billions could be minted onto public blockchains, which is obviously very bullish for the layer ones that they're minted on. And even further from that, companies and foreign entities might prefer to accept stablecoins and use stablecoins as real currency. So this will happen later in 2026, but I think this is a potentially very big catalyst because the amount of money that will be stored on the public blockchain could really go exponential. And if Scott Bessent's words are true, the Treasury Secretary, this could take the stablecoin market cap to $2 trillion, which is about a 6x from here. And that's obviously very bullish for whatever layer ones they're minted on. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully you'll be back for the next videos.